Preface of The Great Encyclical Letters of Pope Leo XIII. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Great Encyclical Letters of Pope Leo XIII. Translated from approved sources. Preface. The popular demand for the encyclicals and apostolical letters of a Roman Pontiff is something so novel as to constitute of itself a proof of the esteem in which he is held. It would seem that whatever is written of Leo XIII. In books or newspapers, instead of satisfying the universal desire for a knowledge of him, only inspires the wish to know more, and the conclusion that the writings of a man of such powers and world-wide sympathies must contain messages of interest and benefit to all humanity. It is precisely the merit of the letters of the late Pope that no matter when they were written or to whom they were addressed, they are of actual and universal interest, as intelligible to laymen and illiterate as to the theologian and scholar, as urgent in their appeals to those who are not within the fold of which he was chief pastor as to the children of the household. His arguments could not but command attention, drawn as they were from history, experience, and reason, as well as from Scripture and tradition. And his sincere interest in the civil and social improvements of every nation, whether Catholic or not, made all hearken to his plea for religion as a chief factor of true progress. The letters which we have selected are all characteristic of Leo. Taken together, they express his sentiments on the chief questions of a time which, owing to his great influence in civil as well as in ecclesiastical matters, is really an epoch in the history of men. His influence on scientific studies alone is sufficient proof of this. Never was science so arrogant as when Leo XIII. Began to recommend to Catholics the study of sound philosophy. 25 years ago, scientists everywhere were proclaiming oracularly, like Tyndall and Huxley among the English-speaking nations, the victory of science over religion. When Leo declared that there could be no question of victory where there was no conflict, and that only men who were ignorant of the true nature of religion and science could consider them mutually antagonistic. If today a brunetier, without fear of contradiction, can proclaim science bankrupt, it is in a great measure because Leo's encyclical on the study of St. Thomas and scholastic philosophy inspired Catholic scientists, and through their influence non-Catholic scientists as well, to study both theology and science more ardently, systematically, and conservatively, and with such success in reconciling their apparent disagreements that the best scientists of our day recognize how each is but a study from a different aspect of the same great first cause and its effects, and that each must necessarily therefore be in accord with the other. Lord Kelvin's words, "Science positively affirms creative power. We are absolutely forced by science to believe with perfect confidence in a directive power," and his further assertion, "If you think strong enough, you will be forced by science to the belief in God, which is the foundation of all religion. You will find science not antagonistic but helpful to religion," are but a re-echo of Leo's utterances a quarter of a century ago. A perusal of the letters contained in this volume will satisfy the reader that in other spheres, as well as in that of science, in education, sociology, and statesmanship, the late Pontiff, by adapting himself to his age and studying carefully its needs and possibilities, has so far influenced its thought and tendencies, and so plainly altered its current of events, as to have opened a new era in its history. It would perhaps be an exaggeration to say that never before had a supreme pontificate been exercised with more distinction than by Leo XIII. But surely in no pontiff has the world at large appreciated so well as in him the nature, duties, and prerogatives of the papal office, and this appreciation is due chiefly, if not entirely, to his pontifical acts as a teacher, ruler, and high priest, whose teachings, authority, and spiritual ministration have exercised an influence on all humanity, as well as on his own subjects. As teacher, Leo XIII. Was not content with recommending true doctrine or urging reforms and improvements in Catholic universities and seminaries, but setting an example, he issued, in season and out of season, his own instructions based on the soundest principles of reason and revelation about the family, liberty, socialism, the relations of the working man and his employers, the right use of political powers, the menace of secret societies to the governments that harbour them, the duties of Christian citizens, and the constitution of Christian states.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?